Okay, I think we're live. Myself and Val are having too much fun in the back room that we didn't notice. We didn't notice the time go by.
So put a pool table in there, my friend.
Hey Val, welcome to the show. So today we're gonna, we may go off topic, but the topic was data silos to business success. Val, you've been on the show before, but for anyone that doesn't know you out there, do you want to give yourself an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Val Goldin. I'm a co-founder and CEO of a company called lifeblood. We specialize in data integration. So we sort of are trying to make it easier and in a more automated way to move and work with data from any sort of system to any other system. And we do it through really clever sort of behind the scenes data engineering. So at the front, it's all kind of drag and drop and business logic. But all the complexity, abstraction of underlying code, memory management, cluster management, all that kind of sits behind the scenes. So you can build the pipelines very quickly, essentially. So that's kind of 30-second intro about me.
Well, I've always enjoyed our conversations wherever they are, whether the meetups, whether at a bar in New York or just online. So thanks for coming on the show today. We've always been talking about data silos. Is not an old topic, but I think maybe there's a bit of a different spin. All right, I've been told I got the flyer. So here we go, got full screen again. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. Where were we?
Yeah, so we're sort of talking about silos and how to get data going again. Yeah. No, I hear you, mate. Always pleasure, to come and hang out with you, whichever location that might be. But yeah, no, fascinating. And always we have really good conversations when we're sort of with a pint of beer. That's when the really interesting things come out, because we discuss the real kind of hands-on things that are happening, what we see in our work day to day, what we see in companies, different struggles people work, trying to work their way around, or new technologies as they come out. Everything is around AI agents these days. So it's like, how are we going to make these work, and how are they going to change the world? So yeah, I love that. And obviously talking to you on the podcast about that is even going to make it more fun.
Never a dull moment. So we've come up with a few bullet points, and I think one of the ones we were just discussing back in the green room, as you call it, was agents in pipelines. And yeah. I think probably we had John Cook on the other day talking about his dogs, his agent dog, let's probably define what are we referring to as an agent?
So, I mean, this is a good conversation as a standalone point, right? So, for us, what we decided is around the automation of the as a mechanism to automate LLM process from within the pipeline, right? So let me sort of kind of rewind and tell you a little bit of context and how we even got there, right? So a lot of the things we see now with our customers is around the obviously ability to integrate all kinds of data that they have, so they can then consume it in whichever way possible, right? We've got a couple other topics to follow that I'll show you around other clever things we've done around the CRM integration, legacy systems. But every enterprise basically has all kinds of vintage of systems sitting around, right? I mean, you take any company that's 10, 15, 20 years old, and you'll find all kinds of horrors, under the carpet. So, but they function, they work, there are people, extracting information out of these systems, maybe not efficiently, but somehow it all ticks together, right? So now, sort of in the last couple of years, with the advent of Gen AI, and people want to see like, oh, okay, well, now this technology is going to save us billions. It's going to change the way we do business. So all the management gets very excited about these capabilities. But when it comes down to actually delivering any kind of capabilities, right, this is where it becomes tricky. I know John Cook is working a lot on clever stuff around that. So companies like ourselves and his and many others are trying to figure out sort of how do we bring that technology, bridge essentially this technology with the business BAU, right? Because companies don't change overnight, especially the old ones, right? So that's sort of kind of the premise, right? We work with big companies like Microsoft, Google's, right, AWS, and the thing is, they see a lot of sort of proof of concepts going on around businesses, right? It's then converting these proof of concepts into business as usual. That's where the problems come up, right?
They're vanity projects, not sanity projects.
Correct. I mean, a lot of them are solutions in search of a problem, right?
Yeah.
Fine. But there are a lot of use cases that actually they're bang on to deliver value. They're just struggling to convert them, right? So this is where we sort of kind of get engaged, right? Say, look, we can convert POCs into BAU, but how do you do it in a sort of seamless, automated way, right? And that this is where it gets very interesting, because we sort of also experiment. As technology is new, right? Our underlying platform is quite powerful, right? So we can do things, we can plug in things into it, we can manipulate things differently without necessarily changing the whole platform from the ground up every time we do it, right? So that's very, it's quite interesting. So,
sorry, is it Spark under the bonnet? Is that what you?
There is Spark under the bonnet, but we put like layers of efficiency improvement on top of it to make it very, very simple to use. You'd never code Spark, that's for one, for instance, right? But essentially what it is we work with structured data most of the time, right? So you pull data from, some siloed system, operational systems, right? It could be batch or stream, whatever. Then we'll do transformation. So this is where you spend time applying business logic, and then you sort of propagate that data wherever it needs to be consumed, usually in the form of a data product of one sort or the other, because it comes clean, validated, pre-done, essentially for consumption. But this time, this customer had, for instance, contract information, right? So they receive these in digital form, PDFs, all kinds of funny different formats. It arrives in a certain location, right? And then a person would go in there, manually extract them. They would try to put them into a database, certain structured, like a schedule of payments and stuff like that, right? So these things need to be processed manually. They may make a mistake. They often do, but somebody then has to revalidate that data, and then it sits in the system for onward consumption. You buy somebody a coffee and say, "Look, can you look up the details for John H. Smith, and give me that contract information," for instance, right? It's a made-up name, by the way. So, and that's how it works today. So for us to then say, "Look, we can automate that process," right? So obviously that's a pinch point, because the information needs to be consumed. It's not being consumed. But the brilliant stuff afterwards is then you can not only take that data, but you can also validate it, and then you can ground it against the existing, say, historical data or additional systems data that produces information about this particular either contract or area of interest or persons involved and so on, right? And you can do that all within the flow of the pipeline. So by the time the data arrives into the, say, operational system, it's ready for consumption, right? It's been validated and so on. And this is where the AI agent comes into play on that LLM part. And that's quite cool.
It is quite cool. And JT's out there saying he'll fight people on the definition. We don't know what his definition is. I think we joked the other day, it's bots on steroids with personalities. That's an agent now, I suppose.
It is a bot. You know what? I get slapped every time I call it a bot, but you know what it is. We all know what it is.
It's a bot with a persona. We all know what it is. And I think the note I just made here was it's basically talking about in advanced enrichment via AI on the fly. And I think I've been chatting to George Miguel. We've been talking about monetization. My background's like a pet project of trying to unpack this stuff. And we're talking about enrichment, and enrichment comes in. I used to say 3-dimensional. I've added another one to it as well now. So you've got wider. So you're enriching a data by going wider with more attributes. You've got longer history, so the history you've got deeper, which is you're combining data sets with other people of the same to get a more complete picture. And I think the other one is a probably a geo sort of layer on top of it as well, which is a different layers of maybe maps or weather or I think things at a geo level that you could lay on top of it. So yeah, so wider, deeper, longer was thing, but I think what you're talking about here is using agents to provide that wider capability. You're getting certain attributes in here. You want to go and enrich that real time and also validate what's already in there, but on the fly. Good old ETL style, not ELT.
Well, that's the thing, exactly that, and also the other kind of interesting part is, so rather than spending a lot of time then manually validating every single piece of information, right? You clean that data before it arrives. So obviously, you train the model to recognize what you're looking for, right? And then you put criteria around actual validation of that. Is that the field we're looking for, right? And then obviously you can either quarantine, you can put an extra layer of validation on top of it and then say, look, if you find this type of stuff, look around, find something else within that context, right? And if then obviously you can't find anything, then you send alert to a relevant person, they'll look it up. And again, all of that sort of happens behind the scenes. So people don't really worry about it anymore, right? It's like, obviously the black box is still a black box, works in the background, but it's black box that produces validated answers. So the people expecting them on the other side is no longer questioning, is this the right thing, right?
Yeah.
They have a high degree of confidence. And I think this is where the AI will get traction better, because people will stop questioning, oh, yeah, it's hallucinating, it's all rubbish, rather than playing with it.
Yes, it also helps with like the provenance and that trust factor. And I think joke the other day was a data doesn't lie, but how it's presented does. So yeah, we're always going to have that. We can do as much as possible to make sure the data is clean, quality, and reconciles. But yeah, people always can tell stories with their own narrative with even the best data. But yeah, having some have the ability to have that correlated as it goes through, maybe even checking other data entities that are out there to making sure they're in sync. So we've got these aggregation different levels. Hold on, you've got a mismatch.
Correct. And that we put that layer of validation there. We use also to keep everything in sync. We obviously use change data capture to make sure that if any system gets updated, it will then refresh the whole thing. But the kind of sort of my kind of I guess optimistic view is this is where we can start switching away from POCs to production by doing these. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's a small change to a business process, right? But essentially, if you start sort of doing these bits and pieces rather than wholesale AI, because I mean, I've heard people asking me like, okay, well, now we've got AI, can you make it like do everything for us? And when the conversation starts like that, you just want to run for the door, right? but essentially, I think it's going to be sort of from the grassroots coming up, rather than top down.
Yeah, so I mean, I think Day-to-Day Techs has had quite a few conversations on the subject of LLMs, and we've talked about large language models and small language models, and I think I used the term tiny language models the other day, which I think if we start to get the situation where we can give much more context to, and very, very localized context to your own organization, let it be trained on trends that you've got within your own data, let it have access to your own Git repository, the log files, it has the context of your organization. You'll then be able to use that as a central location to
exactly
that stuff together, rather than we're talking about data silos. LLMs are now breaking down those silos by having the ability to stitch across information in different places in different formats, but to be able to give you that enriched response that's very specific to your own organization.
I agree, and it's it's interesting the way it's sort of kind of structured. Oh, so we got a question from Ramona.
There's been some going
That's a
on.
good question. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice one, Ramona. I mean, you can put as many layers as you want on top of it, but at some point, I prefer to have a human in the loop always, right? I mean, from my philosophy is this is a technology that we developed to help the human beings improve, essentially, do more with less, rather than replace us.
Yeah.
Right.
So Dan's just like reaffirming that human in the loop. But we still have a purpose, so that's the main thing.
No, exactly, and I agree. And we always talk about my concern around replacing the junior people with AI, like a lot of companies talk about, and that kind of context horrifies me, because how do we make senior people without going through the junior person journey, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good topic, and maybe we'll take a little segue down there. I think we do need to change the way we teach the next generation, so they still are junior programmers as such, but they're learning how to write the right prompts, write the right foundations, think architecturally, think about a design, think logically. I think again, I did a post and it brought up at Day-to-Day Texas is logic trumps languages. Learn logic, learn concepts.
Exactly.
Then you can transfer that to different different languages and technologies.
I fully agree. But I mean, the way it's the same in business, right? I mean, we always have say graduates, interns, junior staff. I mean, we all started as junior folks, right? You always sort of shadowed somebody who knew what they were doing, and you learn from that. And that's like just a human experience of learning things. You get shouted at for being stupid or but eventually you sort of get it, right? And some people like me, for instance, take a little longer to get, but eventually you get there. But that's that was the journey, right? So now if you kind of take that layer out, so I'm all for using AI, but I'm just sort of as a helping tool for the humans to continue to be functioning properly, rather than replacing them wholesale, at least.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't allow people to learn from the lessons of the past, they're just going to make the same mistakes again, or we're just going to develop some monolith that's been written by ChatGPT and no one can support it even. So make a change here, it goes and breaks something else, which I suppose is a nice little link into we talk about CRM synchronization, but driving operational efficiency. So, and recently with some internal examples, I've noticed what operational efficiency can be driven by just using your CRM and other products you have in your company more efficiently and synchronizing it up. So obviously that was one of the bullet points on there. So what's your view of how we can drive this operational efficiency?
Well, so this is sort of my kind of bread and butter, right? I mean, this is hardcore data integration, and that's what we find. I mean, people buy systems, right? I mean, they could buy Dynamics 365, they can buy Salesforce, you name it, right? SAP, and they won't be using them to a full potential, because first of all, it's a pain in the ass to get the data into it, right? Second, somebody needs to constantly monitor it, align it, make sure that the operational systems have the same data as the standard one. You've got a team of people doing it. Now it's trying things with the federated, even like they'll have data owners within different departments, but then CRM would kind of sit centrally, or CRM/ERP, let's put it that way, right? And then suddenly you got the same tensions, right? Some department might be doing a really good job at handling their data, but somebody, say in accounts, they have no idea. They know they produce the data, but they really struggle to do it, right? So how do you then align all these systems? Again, the information keeps being generated every second, in real time, essentially. So to keep all of that synchronized is a major undertaking. So this is where we sort of do these things, right? We come in, and we'll synchronize the systems, change data capture, event management, streaming, batch jobs, you name it, whatever. And you'll pull that data from, say, some like QuickBooks, right? Or something, or like an Oracle database on-prem, right? Somewhere like, it's been there for 30 years. They don't want necessarily touch that database, right? So they want the data to be used somewhere else. You then move that data and synchronize it with, in say CRM system in real time, or batches, whatever. But the reason is around that everyone works off the same data. So you're sort of starting to get this master data management thing going on, right? So if you've got, again, let's go to the John H. Smith, it's the same John H. Smith in 5 other systems. So you can coordinate and make changes to the source and destination as you need. So everybody who works on that data knows that they're working on the same ID, right?
Yeah.
And then you obviously can enrich and so on. But that makes, like you said, it makes a hell of a change, because people now suddenly saying, "Oh, hang on a second, we can now see the data this way, or we can combine it with operations, and actually we can now create a new product to upsell to that particular department or that company, right, or that industry." So we always wanted to do that, but we could never kind of technically achieve it. Oh my God, and it takes us like a week to do it, right? So you suddenly start showing people that they can do something within a week, time frame.
Yeah.
And then they are completely get excited. And then you start talking about, well, now we can bring AI agents, and do all kinds of other exciting stuff, which they're just dreaming about. So I think the power for us is data community, right? Is to getting the results that basically move the dial, but also quickly and without breaking the bank, ideally. You can do everything with a lot of cash, right? Not everybody's got that much money, but that's the whole kind of thing. I mean, I'm happy to hear your kind of counterpoint on that. But
I've just been making notes as I went through, because my memory is not what it used to be. And me and John were talking about this on the show, and then at Day-to-Day Texas, Harla brought this up in one of her presentation about AI strategies that she's been putting in, and everyone always comes back down to is the business processes, and again, it's that B word, the business, and having that view of what you actually do as part of your business process to onboard a client, to take on a new vendor, to create a new user, to do reconciliation for accounts, whatever that process is. And there's, again, ChatGPT can really help you probably frame what high level processes you need to have in an organization, and then you can work on the different layers underneath it. But the key thing about that is you can't prove efficiency unless you can evidence it. And you can't evidence it if you don't know what you're tuning or what the business process was. So you can't say, look, this is how it was. You might get the department around the old days of the water cooler or a Slack channel, now. Cool. This integration now has really helped me. You can never quantify it to a monetary value. So, I think
I mean, this brings us back to where you and I had chats for forever, right? How do we put a number on that particular data initiative? Because a lot of the stuff happens behind the scenes. Oh, we need a new server, we need a new database, right?
Yeah.
How is that gonna translate into the pounds for the CFO, right? And that's always a hard sell.
It is, and we've debated it, and I've had many conversations with Joe Reese about what's the value of what's the ROI of putting your socks on and things like that. So we're not going to go down that rabbit hole there, but but having business processes defined and being able to track the efficiency or time or effort associated with that, which it is easier to do. Any optimization you make on that afterwards is much easier to evidence. Means you're going to easily get the budget for the next piece of work you need to do, and you can get that Slack kudos or things going out because you've done a great job. We got a question that I might come back. So Dan and Ramona are having a conversation between them. We might come back in a minute. But there's a question here from Mohammed, which is quite a generic sort of one here. But what's the biggest challenges companies face when breaking down data silos?
That's a good question, Mohammed. It's from what we see, usually it's not the people side of things, right? Everybody's fed up with silos, right? There's generally a process, like a very hard structured process of, say, extracting a data from an operational or finance system that then goes to some other system, and then it allows consumers to then work with it, right? Or it goes and feeds some other system downstream. Everybody knows it's inefficient. It's it could be somebody on holiday 3 weeks later, they come back, oh yeah, I need to press that button, and so on, right? So that ground is fertile. The big challenge is around technological integration of this stuff, right? So not all siloed systems are actually modern tool friendly. They've been designed maybe 30, 40 years ago. I mean, I come from aviation background, and they had some systems that will make mainframes look modern, right? So so things like that is where the challenges are, and a lot of the times it's the cost and the effort involved that companies avoid doing big kind of silo system integrations, right? I mean, security is obviously another point if you go to like banking, insurance industries, but generally that is where it gets difficult. So when you do integration there, you really need to have a clear plan of what's going to work, what's the best architecture for it, what's the downstream consumption product, whatever the purpose of that data is. Then you can kind of come up with a solution and say, look, actually, this is how we're going to do it. Wholesaling it usually doesn't work. It just blows up after 6 months of trying it, and then the CFO pulls the plug.
Yeah, I just to add to that one, in fact, we've got some more questions coming in as well. Someone playing your piano in the background.
No, it's my grandfather's clock. Apologies.
It's like our timer. We must be the half past mark. But anyway, I think just to add to that, the two things that I wrote there was it's the complexity of the business logic that's embedded in many places. So I think that doesn't help with silos, because you don't actually know where the logic is or what it's based on sometimes. And I think the other one is ambiguity of terminology. One department, and I use this as always an example, customer, supplier, vendor, associate, or parties. Is this just a party? So getting to speak the same language even when you're all talking English is sometimes a big challenge. So
I mean, we had 11 definitions of a flight.
I remember saying, yeah.
So there you go. No, I know those really well. But then the trick is around not necessarily forcing everyone into a particular box, right? Again, it depends on who's going to consume that product, and then you tailor it to that.
Yeah, context-based ones, like a business glossary that sits onto those things. So you're talking the right language, or your new bots on steroids, agents, can do the same.
Exactly.
We've got another question there. What happens to all the research conducted and solution proposed by experts on interoperability frameworks, ensuring data sources are streamlined yet decentralized? Well, research. What's the definition of research out there? I mean, everyone has opinions, but that's everyone's opinions. I mean, I will say this about the whole centralized versus decentralized. It's the lever we've been playing with for ages, right? And what happens is it's too controlled. Everyone complains, and we blame all the failures on that. We decentralize it too much. We get into a mess with cost on that. Then we try and pull it back. We've never actually found that balancing point. I mean, with regards to that research aspect, all I know is based on historical experience with clients that we've had is the only way of decentralizing and it being a success is having the ability for self-service, well-documented patent catalog for people to pull these things down. So
and it's not about technology; it's about particular technology, right? You can do it, through a warehouse or lake, a lake house. You can do it directly. You can do it in memory. You can do all kinds of things. Heck, you can do it on a spreadsheet if that works for your particular business, right? There's nothing wrong with that. The issue here is about the business process, right?
Yeah.
What does the job best for your particular organization, which is scalable, easy to update, maintain, modular, that kind of thing. So whatever the framework that you need to adopt for that particular exercise, right? That's what's going to make your business go forward, right?
Yeah.
And is there a standard answer? I don't think there is. Considering how complex different enterprises are, I genuinely don't think there is one answer to all of it.
No, I'm just reading the second part, ensuring data sources are streamlined yet decentralized. I mean, there are ways of having abstraction layers between the data to allow different paths. Right? For example, Data Vault can provide you the ability to put everything into a hub or a satellite. But you're always going to have to bring that data together at some point. If it's a large volumes, it needs to be in the same place. Otherwise, you've got virtualization. But yeah, I don't know if we answered that question, Ebenezer, but hopefully. Anyway, we've got the next one. We're doing well. We're on a roll. How are you tackling the AI unrealistic expectations for stakeholders on the real effort it takes to do it? Oh,
I love this. This is a good question, Dan. Well, the issue is it's a sales pitch, right? That's where the unrealistic expectations come from, right? So you got this shoved down your throat. AI is the next biggest thing since sliced bread. Maybe it is. I don't know, but not probably at the moment, to be fair. And it's so there is always it's a cultural change, right? Every time there is a change, people will resist, right?
Yeah.
It's just a natural thing. And anybody who's been through a business process change in the business will understand how this whole thing works and how painful it is. So there's part of around obviously educating and a lot of companies are doing workshops and sort of walking them through, and then you got all these pilot programs, proof of concepts going on, trying to sort of kind of get these people to understand, look, it's not going to kill your job first overnight, right? Hopefully never. Second is, well, it will some, but you kind of have to sugarcoat it. Then you've got baby steps around, look, here's your particular department or your team, right? These are the things that make your life painful, right? This is where you spend 3 days out of your 5 days working in it. Doing manual stuff, right? So we can take some of that away, and this is what it's going to do to you. And you take them on a journey with it, because if they feel part of, oh shit, I'm going to tune this. This is what I do feedback around, right? And this is why, if you think about it, these POCs have been running for 12 months on, because people are still trying to buy in, right? There's a lot of sort of cultural suspicion around that, right? And then there are technical issues around that as well. But technical issues sort of, we can make it work, but will people use it? Will they accept it? And that these two have to come together. It's not an easy way to overcome that, especially depending on even which industry you're in, which company you're in. You go financial organizations, there's a whole different story there from, say, IT companies or companies that are a bit more innovative in terms of how they run their business processes. So I don't know if that answered your question, Dan, but that was my best attempt at that.
Yeah, I think just to add, Dan, I support the you've got to take them on the journey and try and identify something that's probably lower effort. Well, they may think it's that high effort, but it's actually a lower effort because it's tried and tested, or you've got some things in place. And then do the smoke and mirrors, dazzle them with that one while you try and tackle the challenging one. I think the funny thought in my head when it came up was asking how long it took to do the big data project, Hadoop, and how long that lasted, and how did that go. So you say, look, it'll be less than that time, but we'll do it better. But it's the good old art of stakeholder management. We all want it. We all want everything yesterday, but It's not always possible. So I think we got another. Is that one more question? Oh yeah, we got another one.
Yeah.
What three?
Oh, there you go.
Here we go. Do we tend to see more silos in regulated industries? Generally, I'd say. Well, go on, Val. You're the guest.
No, I mean, there is a silo and there is a silo, right? So, yes, the answer is regulated industries obviously are a lot more protective of what their data does and where it sits. So, do they have many more silos? I am not sure, but they're definitely harder to break. They're better guarded, more gatekeepers, more gateways on the way to that data, right? But every sort of, like I said, any company that's about 15, 20 years old will have standalone systems, right? And they would be there for all sorts of reasons, right? They've been bought at different generations. They've been some of them were just to cover a particular section. Say operations use one or two or three systems, for instance. Finance would have their own system, marketing will have their own system, right? And historically, you sort of never kind of bothered to integrate it because marketing did their stuff. They needed a piece of one or two pieces of information from, say, commercial. They can go get that over some shared spreadsheet that usually sits somewhere on the shared drive. And that's the process. Operations usually away from commercial because they make things happen and work and tick. Commercial don't generally tend to even bother unless something breaks. So there's that stuff. The strategy planning people will have kind of an overview of everything. So yeah, silos are everywhere. It's just different levels of pain to get to these silos.
I've just seen that comment was from Mark Venn. So I just see on my phone. I can't see on here. But
all right.
And
it just says LinkedIn user.
Yeah. And Mark, as you'll know from our favorite payment company that we had the pleasure of working at together, as soon as you add the LPCI word onto something, then it's all locked down even more, and which creates additional challenges or silos of that data. Because
but interestingly, though, that said, so I think our third point in our discussion was around these sort of legacy silo type of systems around that. And so the companies do want to use that data for creating, data products, doing advanced analytics on that, right? But they don't necessarily want access given to those systems directly. So if you're talking about federated, sort of, hey, I need that data, I'm just going to go query it. So no. So what they're doing is they're doing this sort of sync between the source system and some kind of repository in the middle, right? And that could be, a warehouse, for instance, right? Or something along these lines. And that's where they will aggregate that data. Not necessarily all in one junk piece, like you dump in the lake and then see how you sort that through, right? But they might have it still compartmentalized within that particular database, right? So it'll be a finance set of things, it will be operational and so on. All of those will have controlled access as well. But then that area kind of allows you to collaborate, cooperate, extract data, and build products on top of it. And then put, obviously, ML algorithms, definitely, but also some other clever stuff around AI that you can do on that data. There is genuine desire to do that. It's just not easy to crack those silos and get that whole architecture set up and running and cost effectively. That's where I see big challenges.
Yeah, it's sometimes it looks easy, but we know it's not. Before I'll come back to Ramona's question in a minute, but we had our last sort of like topic that we can just kick that one off, and it's quite I think it's been forgotten a little while. Is the on-premise systems?
Yes.
Everyone's so cloud focused now, and either most companies have gone all in on cloud, or like they have most of that data that's on-premise is in the cloud now as well. So how are we tackling the how are we tackling the ability to get that data that's on premise, and maybe it's never going to go into the cloud because one, it's so old, but it's very useful still. The other, it could be you're a highly or data sovereignty issue that or maybe some security like requirements. yeah, it's going to have to stay on premise. So how are we dealing with that side data there?
No, absolutely valid point. I mean, funny enough, there's a third point to that: is it's damn expensive to move the data from on-prem to the cloud, right? So somebody needs to write a hefty check to do it and spend about a year doing it, right? So there's that, right? But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you already have an on-prem system, you got process set up around that, right? So you've got your data center, you've got people working on it, you've bought these machines, right? Might as well use them, right? Not all processes should need to be in the cloud, to be fair, right? I mean, every time you run computes in the cloud, that's costing you a lot of money, right? Because somebody's taking profit off that, right? You run the same thing on-prem. If you've got enough compute power there, you already paid for it. You just need to make sure the boxes work. Yeah, it comes with risks, obviously, but it's an option, and we see that in some businesses, people use it. I mean, again, you go around finance, insurance kind of industry, and mainframes are still there, right? And they're not going anywhere because they work.
Yeah.
Right. They want to use the data off them, but they want to keep the old tech running. You ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's kind of old adage to that. But essentially it's around making those systems work with your cloud systems. So leave them alone, but you got to sync the data as you need to whatever the data you need within your modern sort of architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where companies like us come in and make these things happen, right? And if you do it cost effectively and quickly, then obviously companies like doing that and they'll keep their systems running. We often see a breakdown is when, I mean, I like to call us as sort of like either firemen or maybe like a sweepers, right? Somebody's been there, tried it for 9 months, pissed everybody off, didn't deliver. Can you guys help us as sort of last resort? We come in 2 weeks later, you got it running, right? Then you sort of get jaw drop and say, and then they can start, we can do this with our systems now, right? But that's the way I see it done. If you can make use of any of your existing system, doesn't matter where it resides, if you can use the data to make decisions effectively, by all means run them.
And linking on to that a little bit recently, and I've been talking to there's an alternative data meetup I go to sometime, and there's a few lawyers I was talking to there. They're working in that data space, and because they're a little bit more connected to the data space, they were much more acceptance of actually using AI to do some of their work that they do internally. And the problem with legal companies as well is that all their data is in a filing cabinet or like scanned documents, but it is all on premise, and they don't want that stuff going out. Well, because they're lawyers, they know what they would do if their stuff got out. So they know. And with DeepSeek AI out now, and it being a very good alternative to other options, but people being a little bit sensitive of, I don't want to use the version up there. I'd like
exactly.
I don't want the TikTok style incident happening again. You want to put that into at your own hosted location and maybe give that access, long to make sure there's no backdoor in there or something like that there is from that.
I agree.
So there's there either is going to be the rise of having that more stuff actually being processed and actually being stored locally on premise. I suppose that gives us the other challenges. How do we bring those two things together? There's products out there like Dremio, Starburst, which were sort of like, I saw them sort of like, their ecosystems like dwindling because Databricks and Snowflake doing more of that. But I think that new Iceberg use case, or fact that bring your own compute engine anywhere, and also the ability to connect on premise, I think both of them do as well. Yeah, maybe that's maybe let's see a bit more of that as a pattern that's out there.
But I mean, the thing is around all of these sort of platforms is, if you're looking for ROI, obviously, right, you always need to make sure that whatever is you're running either on-prem or on the cloud is the most efficient way of doing it for you financially, but also it gives you, security, performance that you're after, right? Reliability and all that stuff, but security a lot as well. And then once you found that equation, then you make that decision around your architecture, right? So if the cloud is the way to go, then you go that way. And not just because, you're sort of hunting, we got to be on the cloud. Everybody went on the cloud. We got to be on AI. Now everybody's running AI, right? It's like, guys, chill. Do the analysis. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's like when the CEOs are playing golf together or at that function, they all want to do what everyone else is. And I think the best approach is to do what's actually needed to focus on your own business strategy. But unless you've got an AI project on, your share price or attracting staff may not happen. So it's a bit of a balancing act.
That's true. That's very true. And that's difficult. But they all say they have an AI project, right? So they got these pilots running.
Oh yeah.
But they, unless they're very localized, there's little value being created wholesale. And I'd like that to be changed, obviously, right? I kind of like technology. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be in this business, right? Yeah. But I also like the concept of AI. I mean, we all grew up on sci-fi movies where AI was, other than trying to kill us, but it was quite helpful in many other movies.
Right? HAL 9000 tried to kill us, and also the Terminator. Yeah, so
yeah. But beyond that, the C-3PO was quite useful, right? R2-D2, right? These guys. And then this is all AI. Heck, they even had personalities, right?
So, yeah. They were more than bots, weren't they? So, what's the next topic we've got? I think we covered the main bullet points we had on there. Let me just go. Let's go back to maybe DeepSeek and how that's how that's going to change the situation. So. I was talking about. I think I mentioned about zombie companies the other day. It was the lift or the. Have you got enough runway, or do you need to have a better lift? And before DeepSeek came out, it was how much hidden cost how much is being subsidized by ChatGPT or Gemini that's doing it all for free, that companies are building their architecture or their products on top of. If they were to pass the real price on to them, would they, would it still be a product so
no, they're losing too much money on what they're subsidizing now. At one point they're going to have to recoup. I mean, there's no moat, right? Even Google came out, said there's no moat around Gemini, right? There's nothing. The only thing is they're throwing a lot of money on chips and sort of, look, this is where the power, and you put raw power into the computing and scale and so on around that, right? Fine. I mean, but if somebody comes up with a more efficient model, right, suddenly, hang on a second. But there are two ways to look at this, right? One is, well, yeah, okay, let's give up. We spend too much money, right? We don't need so much compute, which I don't think is the right answer here anyway. Second answer is slightly longer term, right? Well, hang on a second. Now we've got all these clever algorithms, right? We can have a lot more things running through the same chip. So why don't we have more things that enable us to do things we only dream of, or maybe even haven't dreamed of yet, to do the use cases around that? And I think the data centers will still come through, unless obviously, quantum computing changes the whole thing. But for the next at least 20 years, I think we're safe around this.
That's a really good point. And we're nerding out a little bit here, but quantum computing coming up. So how far away from me? How far away is it till quantum computing can go and break blockchain?
Yeah, good question. But the Japanese came out with a photonic quantum computer, right? So it's apparently a lot more user-friendly and efficient to run it. So experts will correct me by all means, but it sounds like it's a step forward in that whole technology.
Yeah, well, I won't cash out yet, of my, Bitcoin I've been holding for years, no, I wish. I did miss a question from Ramona, actually, so let's put that one back up.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, do data silos come with own folks? Not a joke. So the answer is yes. And that's okay. Well, that's this whole operational world versus the analytics world. And we still don't talk the same language, even though I talk about platform gravity. We are getting closer and working, adopting DevOps and data ops sort of like approaches, which is getting more aligned. Source systems being able to share the data to the analytics. But yeah, you'll have your older your team that's just looking at the Oracle stuff in the past, or your ERP system. It'll just be that team that will be the siloed associated. But that's a good thing, because you've got your domain expert thing. Because otherwise you've got no SMEs on that data, and you won't be able to actually understand the business logic that was actually used to create it.
Yeah, COBOL, anyone? They're in high demand.
Yeah, so I don't know, Carl Evo, who he was at Day-to-Day Texas. Yeah, he actually was training up a lot of COBOL programmers, but junior guys into that. I don't know how, with Chat GPT and things like that, how much of that can be de-risked now, because I think it was a big risk of not actually understanding COBOL. Who speaks the language of all? Yeah, good point.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's one person that has to they have to talk technical, they talk business, but never at the same time, like never cross streams.
Yeah, that's true. Although not necessarily bad things happen when you do cross.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything else you want to catch up with today?
No, I mean, look, I just a little plug at the end. If you guys, anyone is interested in data integration, how to embed AI agents within live pipelines, and how to get more of your sort of unstructured data and structured data working together. We've got experience now, so by all means, happy to share. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me, through Chris even. So that's no problem at all. But yeah,
well, I highly recommend anyone reached out to Val. He's not your typical sort of CEO or salesperson. He's always happy, and he's always happy to share information as well. So yeah, definitely hook him up if you want to find out more about how IO Blend can help you. Or if you're ever in London, you'll be able to meet him face to face, and me as well. I think the next one, 25th of February, will be the next one.
cool.
The next monthly
yes
meetup.
Oh no, these are really good. And then Chris is absolutely right, guys. If you want to sort of come over, if you're in London, everyone's welcome. There's nothing salesy, pitchy, or anything. It's just generally, sort of a kind of exchange of thoughts, ideas over a beer and pizza, and it's just very, very kind of casual and friendly. And
it's a great
community. I
learned
a lot from these events, and
and
Chris is
myself as well. I'm always meeting new people, finding out their views as well. So that's fantastic. So I suppose my time to do a bit of a plug. Winter Data Conference, get your tickets now. It's nearly a month away. So yeah, if you like skiing, you like data, you like a bit of AI, come to Zalmzee. You'll see us out there. I'm out there actually skiing. I'm on a holiday a few days before, calm before the storm. And
fingers crossed you have snow.
Yeah, hopefully it has. Yeah, well, yeah, typically it isn't. And next week I have on the show, I've actually got one step ahead. Got Stephen McLeod back on the show again. Always love his views. He says it how it is, and I think I did a post about the BS in the data world, and he said let's do a show about it. So
yeah, that would be fun. I'll go look forward to that one for sure.
He's a straight talking guy from New Zealand, so collaborating over the years on different things on LinkedIn, and we always seem to be quite aligned and angry about the same things. So it's always good. All right. Well, yeah, I will call it a wrap. But thank you very much, Val, for being on the show. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I'll see you face to face at the end of the month, but I'm sure we'll have some collaboration on LinkedIn between now and then.
You got it, Chris. Thank you, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And hopefully you found this interesting, one way or the other.
I hope so. All right. Thanks, Val. We'll call it a wrap. We'll end that.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye.